we had the inflation crisis, and the problem is, when everything goes well, no one pays attention to central bankers, but when things go wrong, that is when all eyes are on them. And especially young people, their only experience with central bankers is when things went incredibly wrong. So now central bankers are trying to sort of make a case for their existence, and they're trying to reach young people where they are, and that is on Instagram, on social media. Most young people nowadays get their news from social media. So I guess central bankers are trying to also to speak in their own language.
What's the aim then of the accounts, and how are they trying to get their message across? Because I had a quick scan of the Bank of England's Insta feed, and it was very much kind of an explanation about, historic things to do with the Bank of England. So what's their aim?
So their aim is to engage and educate, and I guess to an extent entertain young people. So you would see videos like a day in the life of a central banker, much like you would see a day in the life of some sort of celebrity videos. The Bank of Canada does those, okay, and they are weirdly AI narrated. And then, you have the ECB, they're using their young employees to explain interest rate decisions. And from speaking to people at the ECB, they told me they often get ideas for their Instagram account from young people. So you have these very funny videos of sort of baby boomers reading texts written by Gen Zers with stuff like the euro symbol, iconic, she's serving main character energy. And of course, the Bank of England, the Bank of England loves posting about coins and banknotes.
Yes.
But actually, that is how I got into this topic, because Andrew Bailey gave an interview to a personal finances influencer when the bank decided to cut rates. Yeah. So that was why, the whole economy team at Bloomberg was watching Instagram for this interview to drop. And then we were hooked. We couldn't not watch Andrew Bailey on Instagram.
But to be clear, it's more about explaining rather than making news. You don't really see posts moving markets, do you?
No, not really. And I think this is something that central bankers struggle with on Instagram, because they have this tension between, them trying to be precise. They're technocrats. This is why they're good at their job. They're experts. They want to, they're used to talking to markets, and where if you change a word in your statements, that can have a massive impact. But if you're trying to be precise, then you're often not accessible, and people scrolling their Instagram feeds don't understand you.
So here's what I really want to ask you, because Caroline, it has to be acknowledged, Irina is one of the coolest people in this office. Who's doing it well?
Well, Christine Lagarde, of course. So Christine Lagarde is one of the very few central bankers who actually command attention to themselves. She actually has twice as many followers as the European Central Bank on Instagram. And, she often posts videos of her talking to tiny mics, just like, TikTok influencers do, from locations all around the world, from Davos to Vilnius. She has some sort of more, I guess you could call them personal posts, with her visiting art galleries or celebrating the reopening of Notre Dame Cathedral. And who could forget her golden necklace spelling out "in charge" that she wore when the European Central Bank cut interest rates for the first time in this cycle.
Okay, yeah, sort of the boss mantra.
Does the lady protesteth too much?
Well, I think, but then in some senses that's also the worry. I mean, Lagarde also illustrates the tension and the concern about policymakers, because she's formerly a politician. And so that's also kind of at the heart of this, isn't it? Does it get too political, too risky, I suppose? I mean, the misinformation line is another one that's pretty fascinating, because actually someone who doesn't have a personal Insta is Jerome Powell, but he seems to be also at the heart of quite a lot of misinformation online too.
Yes, there are so many videos of Powell, of his voice being manipulated to say things like "God bless my money printer," or these TikTok videos where, he just says "good afternoon" and then cue videos of markets crashing. And I guess the Fed is the center of, the Fed attracts the most misinformation. But it is, as I was saying, there is this tension, and I think most central bankers they would rather not be accessible, but they would rather be precise. and because they understand the dangers of being a bit too political.
Yeah.
And you talked about how Christine Lagarde's got more followers than the ECB. Which central bank has the most followers?
Well, is it the Central Bank of Indonesia? I think.
It's up there.
Yeah, it's one of the most followed. And then I think it's almost like 2 million followers. The Central Bank of Brazil has a lot of followers. And Brazil, of course, has this, the central bank has this instant payment system that's very, very popular with people. And I guess that's why it helps boost its social media presence. And, we can't not mention the Central Bank of Jamaica, which actually commissioned reggae songs about inflation. With I think the lyrics are something like, "We don't want it too high, we don't want it too low, and inflation's at 2%. That's the way to go."
Yes, yes. Thank you for doing that on the radio.
We needed the reggae backing soundtrack. This is radio. We failed you. Irina, it's a great story and great bit of reporting, and I think it's hugely important when you think about financial stakeholders, and the younger generation sort of coming to the fore. They're going to be making all the decisions in future. So yeah, it's really interesting that the central bankers are trying to stake out a position on Instagram. Irina Angel is our UK economy reporter.
Oh, I really need you to come back for the reggae rendition. I'm going to get the steel drums ready for it for the next time, Irina. Lovely.